Today, I recreated Whomp's Fortress from Super Mario 64 in Minecraft. So I took a video for reference, and I got this 3D model here for the basic layout. So I booted up Minecraft, made a new world, and recreated Whomp's Fortress. Here's how. Also, just before we start the video, a lot of you have been requesting a download, so big news! There's now a download for these 4 maps I've recreated in Minecraft. It's only for Bedrock Edition of Minecraft. The link for Whomp's Fortress will be in the description, and the other 3 will either be on my Planet Minecraft profile or in the descriptions of the other videos. So anyways, let's actually get to the recreation. So I made like the basic grass starting area and added some jungle fences for the actual fence. And then I started making this dirt staircase that goes up to the top of the fortress. And I realized this grass area wasn't long enough, so I made it bigger. And the grass was spreading onto this dirt part, so I set the tick speed to absolute 0. So that means no plants can grow, grass can't spread, fire can't go out, stuff like that. So I continued making the dirt path, and then I made the part where it's flat and it has these little rock things that push you off. I have no idea what to call them, I'll just call them Dwayne. So I tried to figure out what to use for this rock thing, and I eventually decided on Dead Brain Coral Block. In commands, it's referred to as Coral Block 1. If these people didn't help me in the comments, then I wouldn't know how to fill with Dead Brain Coral Block. Because apparently when you do /fill, there's no brain coral block. It's just Coral Block 1. And for some reason, even though the tick speed is at 0, it still dies out. So I started building the rock wall, and I extended it all the way over to this part. And for the little Dwaynes, I'm gonna use the same material. I decided to make this rock slope 1 block less wider than the dirt path, just so I can put the little yellow arrows in it and center it out. And as you can see here, these 2 slopes start at the exact same time, but the stone one ends later than the dirt one, so I did that. And for the majority of the entire map, it's this dark brown brick. This one was actually really hard to pick. I was thinking of using nether bricks, or maybe just normal red bricks, but that looked really ugly, so I decided to focus more on the color and not the actual design of the block. But thank you to the Audacity channel. He said that the color is more important than the actual design, so I decided to use some brown terracotta. If you're watching this Audacity channel, thank you. And I kind of agree with him. Solid colors are way better than the actual design, and it gives you that better Mario feel. So I spent literally 5 minutes deciding on what to do, and I actually picked brown concrete. So for these platforms that go in and out, I decided to just make them fully out, halfway there, and a little bit out. Because obviously it would take way too long to make them go in and out automatically. So I started making the platform over here with the metal cap box, the thwomp, and the sign. Obviously I'm not going to add those in until later when I do the actual details. Right now I'm just doing the basic design. But for some reason, there's no terracotta fill command in the command section. I know you're probably telling me to take all of this advice into doing the 1, 2, 3, 4 thing, but when I search up terracotta, it just has glazed terracotta. Like there's no terracotta to add numbers to. It's fine if you don't understand it, it's kind of complicated, but that means whenever I use this brown terracotta, I'm gonna have to manually fill it in. That took a long time, so please subscribe. So I found this method of placing blocks that does an astonishing 14 blocks per second. So basically you just need to place a block and then start falling facing up, and it'll give you a lot of blocks per second. I haven't seen this anywhere before. It probably was invented before, but I'm just gonna call it the Scorpion BPS strategy. So I started doing more of the Scorpion BPS strategy on this platform over here, and then started making the staircase that goes up to the piranha plant. So for each step, I did 2 by 2 blocks, even though it's not possible to jump up. It's just for looks. This map isn't really for an actual playthrough. So then I just started doing some adjustments to the staircase to make it actually fit. As you can see here, when I place all the brain coral blocks, they easily die out within 5 seconds, but some of them are delayed, and it just really confuses me. If there's no tick speed, then how do they die? Tick speed means the amount of time it takes for something to complete something else. So after that, I started making this spot that goes up to the piranha plant. So the hardest part about this was with the brown terracotta and making all the slopes and stuff, but I'll get to that later in the video. You're probably wondering what's the easiest part. The easiest part was making the details. It was the funnest part as well. And for these stairs, I decided to use some cobbled deep slate stairs. And for some reason, I just speed ran what I've built so far. And then I started making the actual level where the piranha plant is. And for this bridge right here that falls down, I decided to use some smooth stone. And for this plank right here, I just use a jungle slab. And for this little random triangle thing here, again, I use some smooth stone. For the spinny thing, I also use jungle slabs. So I continued building this path that goes up to the top. And for this recreation, I'm not gonna add the actual Womp King. I'm gonna just add this tower thing because I think it just really adds to it. And I'm gonna be recreating the Womps later in the build. And I just think it would be more interesting to add the tower than just a bigger version of the Womp. So I started building this giant water part right here, and it actually went pretty good. Obviously, I made it 1 block deep, because in the actual game, it's shallow enough for you to walk in it. And I added some stone slabs right here for this little slope to get out. And then this was the first part of actually using the brown terracotta slopes. This was pretty easy, but the next part was not the best. I don't want to bore you with the details, so I'll just speed it up. So I was finally done this curvature over here, but I still had this entire part to do. So for this brick part, I decided on some jungle planks. Even though it's not bricks, it still looks kind of similar. So after I finished it looked pretty good, but I had this entire area to do still. So I built that, and for this giant slope here, I used cobbled deep slate stairs. So after I did that, I started building the path that goes over to the top of the fortress. So here's what it looks like so far. It's starting to look similar, but it's not done. So I built this part, and then I built this part that goes out like that. So the giant pole, I obviously use iron bars. So I started building some more of this bricks, and then I started making this curve here. It was actually kind of hard to do, and this wasn't perfectly to scale with the size of this, but it's fine. So I started building this curve right here. It was kind of hard, but it was okay. And for some reason, this curve here is the light brown bricks instead of the dark brown, even though literally that's the only light brown curve, but it's fine. So then I started building the wall that goes around this brown part. After I did that, I filled the entire top with jungle planks. And then for the ground, as you can see here, one side's the brick and one part is like the gray brick. So I just decided to use some gray carpets. Again, if it wasn't for these people, I wouldn't know how to do this command. Instead of doing the color of the carpet, you do carpet and then a random digit. And it appears for the light gray carpet, it was carpet number 8. But there is a bunch of random carpets just lying around everywhere. So I just did the /kill@E command, which kills all entities. And for some reason, the game thinks objects are actually entities, and it still works. It's an easy way of getting rid of all this trash. And now I started building the stuff on top of the fortress. So that includes the tower and the bullet bill launcher. I'm not going to make the plank and the floating island just yet. I'm going to do that at the end. So for the bullet bill launcher, I'm going to use some deep slate. And for the hole in the middle, I'm not sure how I'm going to do that, but I'll figure it out later. And I had some problems making the actual shape and base of the tower, but I finally decided to go 3 blocks here and then 2 blocks here. And then for the actual tower part, I used some endstone bricks. And when I was building the bricks that go in and out, for some reason it just ended here in the 3D model, and I thought, maybe that's just inaccurate, and I'll check the video I made, but the video still didn't have any extra steps, and then I realized it goes up and down. Just like the Dwayne's, I can't move it up and down, so I'm just gonna keep it in the lowest part in its movement. And then for this red brick part, I should have used red nether bricks, but I just decided to use normal bricks. And for the ground, I used some polished andesite slabs because this wouldn't be a full block down. And then I made the top, which looks kind of poopy, so I made a little bigger. And for the middle, I used some deep slate bricks and used little nether fences for the windows. Now, all I had to do left for the basic layout was this small part over here with the cannon. So I made these 3 platforms, nothing that interesting. And for this hole right here, there's an iron bar going through it, but if I put an iron bar there, it would look like this. So I just did that. It's not that big of a problem, but if I could, I wish there would be some way to make it not connect to the blocks around it. If you do know, please leave your suggestion in the comment, because that can help me a lot when I make other maps. So I started building the slope here that goes down to this P-switch area. I realized the map was getting kind of dark, so I got some light blocks. I basically got some invisible blocks that you can walk through and you can't see the outline of when you're not holding them, and they just light up the area. So now I just finished this part. I needed to make this slope, the one last slope of this map. So after I made that slope, it looked pretty good, and now it was done the basic layout. And now it's time for the most interesting part, the details. For this tree, I used an actual tree, but the trees wouldn't grow properly how I wanted it to, so I just made it myself. And for these little flower patches, I did the same as last time. I used some alliums and dandelions in this shape. And for the piranha plant, I had a lot of trouble doing it. So I originally used a drip leaf and a nether wart block, and I wanted to have like sort of a green mouth, but I realized from when I built Super Mario Sunshine, link in the description, I downloaded an invisible item frame pack, so I used that and just put some bamboo there. And then the bamboo got me thinking, the drip leaf looks kind of ugly, why don't I use some bamboo? So I did that. The thing is, with the bottom of the bamboo, there's no leaves on it, but on the top, if you have it 2 blocks tall or taller, it has this little leaf on it. I just dug 1 block down into the ground, planted the bamboo, and then I filled that area with grass. It's pretty big brain, so I got the leaves. But for some reason, it looked really ugly where his head was located on his neck, but I tried replanting it, but it just wouldn't go out of that specific corner, so I just left it. Next, there was this box over here. I used a jungle plank, and there's some more flower patches, so I did that. And for the signs, obviously, I just typed random stuff. And then I started building the Dwaynes. I just used the same material as I do for the rocks, and then I just used the invisible item frame on some white concrete and put some lapis lazuli for their eyes. So for this one over here, I had the sign and the metal cat box, and for the thwomp, it was a little hard. In Mario 64, the thwomp is like a light blue, so I just used some light blue concrete. And making the face was the hardest part, because all I had was invisible item frames. Anything else would look really ugly. So with the invisible item frames, I put some warped stairs and some red concrete. I know, laugh all you want, it looks really ugly. But a wise man once said, it ain't best, but it's just honest work. For the metal cat box, I used some green terracotta and put some exclamation marks on some birch signs. I built another thwomp, and then I put this sign over here. Built some more piranha plants and added some more signs. And for the womp, I decided to use some polished andesite and then have the same face design as the thwomp. And for this arms, I used little levers. For this little lift here, I used some cobbled iron ore, I think it's called, I don't know. And for the little lifts, I used some prismarine blocks and some gold blocks. I added some more signs, added this P-switch button over here, and added the cannon. And for that, I used some blue concrete, light blue stained glass pane, and a black carpet. For this bullet, I didn't know really what to do, but I just decided to use some blue concrete and some skulls. And I finally decided for the bullet bill launcher, I just used black banners. It looks really ugly, but it's the best I could do. And for the top of this thing, I used a conduit. And this was actually pretty smart. For the arrows, I just used some yellow concrete, invisible item frame, and a candle. The top of the candle is pointing the way you're supposed to go. So, and then for the fences, I used some iron bars, and then I started building the islands that are in the sky. I built the plank, some islands. It's pretty boring, I don't want to show you all of it. And then for this little cage, I used some jungle planks and some bars. And then I placed the last one, and wait, we're not finished yet. I want to delete the entire floor, so when I do the clips at the end, it looks exactly like the game that doesn't have a giant grass field. So I spent the next while doing that, just filling the ground with air. Out of 13 recordings, I spent 4 of them just making the ground air. That's how long I spent, but it's good for this last clip. And so after I turned my render distance down so you couldn't see all the grass in the background, I was done. So here's what it looks like. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.